How are you?
Good on my side. Excited to talk. I
Yeah,
love Lyme.
yeah, that's good to hear. I love your background. Where are you right now?
In Guadalajara. It actually looks
Guadalajara.
like an old grandma painting, but yeah,
Hmm.
I would maybe change, the borders of it. But
Sure.
yeah, it's a real painting. It's pretty cool.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
in
it is
the
pretty cool.
Airbnb we're in. Where are you at?
Well, I'm at my place. I'm in Spain right now. And Guadalajara, let me think. Yeah, you guys speak they speak Spanish over there, right? I'm gonna sound
Yeah,
a
yeah, it's
bit
in
stupid,
Mexico.
but exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, no, I moved to Spain 3 years ago.
You entered Spain 2 years ago. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 3 years ago. I'm originally from Holland. I'm Dutch, but I moved here about 3 years ago.
And
Yeah.
what part of Spain are you in right now?
I'm close to Alicante. So, when you're looking at the top from the top, then you have Madrid, Barcelona, and then
Yeah, I
Alicante.
know, I know it because I was in not Guadalajara. I was in Guardamar del Seguro,
Hmm.
which is 30 minutes from Alicante south.
Yeah, exactly.
I was there for a month or two, and Alicante is pretty badass. To be honest,
Hmm.
it's one of my favorite little city in Spain. We went to see like couple of movie acting theaters in there. It was a very nice play around
Oh, yeah.
Christmas, I think. And yeah, it's very small town, small streets. And then you can go up in the castle and have a view on the whole city, so very nice
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, the castle's pretty cool. If my window would have been like 2 meters more to the left, I would be looking at the castle right now.
Really.
But yeah, I really like Alicante. So I'm from Holland. It's a fairly small country, so to me, Alicante is it's sort of a big city, I suppose. Like I've been to Madrid and I've been to well, but
Yeah.
so for me, Madrid is huge. It's too much.
Oh yeah, it's big city.
So I really like Alicante.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Uh, well, it's a big city. It's somewhat similar to CDMX, Ciudad de Mexico, the Mexico City as we know it in English.
Hmm.
It's well, there's mountains around here. I'm a trail runner. I actually came here because of a Spartan race ultra that was happening, but never happened.
Hmm.
They canceled it, so they moved it like south of Mexico City. So now we're gonna move there and see. Well, it's gonna be the same race, just it's gonna be way shorter. It's not gonna be the ultra version. So
Hmm.
long story short, I've been in Guadalajara before. It's a nice city. There's a bunch of things to do. Like for my birthday a couple weeks ago, I went to the Lucha Libre, and that's
Hmm.
pretty funny. Like to see Mexican wrestlers, but also people in the stands just swearing at one another, and
Hmm.
it was a very fun experience. So
Sure.
bunch of things to do, and also what you need to know if you ever come by here.
Hmm.
There's the tequila route. So there's this town called Tequila, and that's where they make all the tequila. And
Sure.
if you don't make the tequila from there, you cannot have the appellation. So we didn't have the time. Actually, we're moving this weekend. We might go and do the tequila experience, but it's known for that. And obviously, there's a bunch of things to do. Last piece of info about Guadalajara is that it's a nice startup hub in Mexico. There's a bunch of cool and exciting startups that are building here.
Hmm.
So the startup, there's like two cities, maybe three that are great startup hubs in Mexico. There's Mexico City, there's Guadalajara, and I think there's Monterrey, which I've never been. She's like more north, but that's kind of cool, because that's that in the end that's what's gonna pick up the Mexican economy. Yes, they're
Hmm.
very dependent on tourism, but also it might fend off eventually the narco problem that they have here. Which, by the way, tourists are not exposed to narcos, but it's just bad for the country and the economy, as you might know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of the first things that I mean that comes to mind, right, when you think about about
Yeah.
that. So it's, I mean, it's great to hear that, the startup scene and the business scene is picking up. So that's super exciting. I'm glad to hear that.
Startups
And
are
pretty
gonna save the world, man. Line is gonna save the world.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And pretty cool to hear about your Spartan race as well. That's pretty cool. I've
Yeah.
never done Spartan. I've done some obstacle runs, obstacle races, which they're really fun, but they're nowhere near as intense or extreme as the ultra runs or anything like that. But
Yeah, I would have loved to do it, but I guess this year's gonna be practice. The one I'm going is 21 kilometers. It's not gonna be a challenge for me, as I did an Ironman last year, which is kind of intense. The ultra was somewhat similar in difficulties of the Ironman. You complete it in around 15 hours.
mm,
But yeah, it's a cool thing. I mean, I do it for the mental, I do it for
yeah, yeah.
the mindset to just build me up, and it plain works. It's one of the best medicine, probably after meditation, what if you want to build your mind and achieve great things. And I'm pretty sure you'll understand that, as you also look like an ambitious guy. Looking
Yeah,
at your background, if you don't mind, we'll just jump into it, because I know
yeah, definitely,
your
No,
time is precious.
for me, sports is meditation as well. Whenever you're doing cardio or whenever like, I'm doing some individual spinning, there is always
Yeah,
that moment where you think, shit, I'm gonna quit. And then
yeah,
when you go through that, then after it's just flipping bliss and you have all these negative thoughts, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow. So that's definitely something I can, I mean, 21 kilometers for me would be a lot right now, but yet something that I can relate to because we all work out and have our obstacles that we get through, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, you just described it. It's always the point, when you're like, shit, this is too much and I need to stop. But the thing is, this is just your brain,
Mhm.
telling your body what to do, but the body doesn't know. The body just can't keep going. It's just a goddamn brain, like it always comes and slows you down in so many
Mhm.
ways. The body is really prehistoric. It's really hard for it to break down. Yes, sometimes you can get injured and obviously need to stop, but I think the mind, there's way more work to do on the mind than on the body, and obviously that the mind influences the body. So if you work a lot on your mind, you'll have a great body and you'll achieve incredible thing, because your body
Mhm.
is capable of doing, the ultra, for example, the Spartan race ultra. Obviously there would be a time cutoff. You probably wouldn't make it. They cut off, after I think 17 hours, something like that. But theoretically you could just go and run for 24 hours without, you know breaking down. But I mean,
Mhm.
it's all, and it's the same in sales. Like, I checked your background. You started in sales. I started in sales too. Um, when you start, when you cold call, I mean, at some point you want to stop, but you just keep on going. You just go one more. Like, I love this quote: just go one more. And
Mhm.
eventually, you get that meeting, you get that serotonin shot, and that's enough to keep you going. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing, right? When you then experience that success, yeah, that keeps you going, and that also teaches you something for the next time. Because when you're in that exact same spot, then you're thinking, hey, you know what? Actually, last time I flipping did it. Let's just try it again because I've shown myself that I can actually do it. So then you do that again, and I'm also a really big believer of thinking in systems. So then hey, you know what? Last time it took me 50 calls, got that meeting.
Yeah,
Let's just get 50 calls in. Like it's a binary thing. I'm gonna get my 50 calls in, yes, 100% guaranteed. And then, hey, you know what? Another meeting, and then you can start planning around that. You know what? I'm gonna make time to do 100 calls, and I'm gonna book 2 meetings, perfect, and that's it.
yeah.
And yeah, once you've shown it to yourself once, then you can do it again. It's just getting to that initial success point, and that's just a matter of wanting it bad enough, pretty much.
I relate a lot to the system thing, and I always tell my guys, that they need to be consistent in everything. You can't, like, be consistent at work and not be consistent in, your personal life, for example, when you cook, or um, when you go to gym, for example. So Nowadays, I go to the gym here in Guadalajara, and the systematic thing, for example, well, for example, I do like 30, for example, if I'm doing abs, I'm gonna do like well, I should do 30 reps, okay? But then my brain tells me, okay, if I do 3 sets of 34, let's say, then I'm gonna
Mhm.
hit 100. And it's this weird like numbers obsession. And finally, like if I do 34, then why not do 35, And if I'm at
Mhm.
35, why not 40? And then
Mhm.
that's where you break the barrier, and that's where greatness happens. That's when muscle breakage happen, and that's where you bulk up, and you're better. And I think that that's also a brain thing. Like when you're in the flow, don't stop. If you feel good, if you feel caffeinated, and you have the serotonin in your brain, don't stop at 50. Hit a
Mhm.
streak and go for 100. That's also a pretty cool advice. But I want to get in your background, because I have your LinkedIn profile here, and we're gonna get to Lyne. I want to spend a good like 15 minutes spending to spend online. And
Sure.
I want to talk about like your background here. You started in Amsterdam, which is a nice place. I've been, by the way, Netherlands.
Mhm.
You started at Immolife. Maybe you can start there and go up to Inditex, and then go to Lidaru, which is going to get interesting, because that's when you kind of got into lead gen. Can you tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, definitely. So emo life, that is way, way back. That was, I'm looking at it now as well because I need to remind myself a little bit. That was 2008, and that might have been even earlier when I started there, which was door-to-door sales, which I think is a great place to start. I was young, hungry, like you. When you're young and you have the opportunity to make a lot of money,
Yeah.
then I mean, like that's very motivating, and that's also where I learned like your team and your colleagues, they make the whole thing when it comes to challenging jobs. So yeah, at times door-to-door sales is tough, but when you have really like you have a nice team and you're motivated, when you're motivating each other, that's really helpful. So did door-to-door sales, that was great. I led a team and was helping with the training of the team door-to-door sales, and you also realize it's really important to set targets for yourself, and then you take those serious, and you try and hit one more door, and you try and hit that number, not because if not, then bad things. It's just something, okay, once you set the number, you want to get there, right? So that's where I learned that.
I need to
Then
ask, how is door
yeah.
to door in Europe? What's the difference? Because I know the door to door in Canada and US. I've got a bunch of friends that did it, and people sometimes freak out, and they kind of tell you to go away, or they call the police, or they
Mhm.
even pull a knife on you, or I've heard like crazy shit like that. But how is it in Europe?
Right. It really does depend, like the kind of neighborhood that you're in, I suppose, a city. I mean, yeah, I've had people come out with their dogs and people calling the police, especially like elderly people, because they're not really used to it. They're not sure. There's this, they hear crazy stories in the news, and then there's a
Yeah.
young guy knocking on the door, asking for them to open the door. And yeah, you have a badge and all that, but it's just, I can imagine for them scary, so
Yeah.
they sometimes call police or anything. But it's back then it was a little bit newer because we're talking about 13, 14, 15 years ago, so it was a
Yeah.
bit different, and no one really loved it. But then again, overall the experience was just pretty good. Like the things you're interrupting people their day, in what they've at their home. So it's a bit, it's I can imagine that some people they're not really too excited to see you. But
Yeah.
from just what you just told me, it sounds like Canada is a bit worse in that regard. So
In the
so
cold.
that's yeah, that as well. That is, I mean, I've had some cold days. Don't get me wrong. In Holland can get cold as well when it's snowing. But so yeah, that was emo life. Then I went to Inditex where I managed one of their stores in Amsterdam. Travel a bit and you do some things here and there. And so that was a lot of fun. I even played professional poker for a while, traveled the world, and made some great friends and some great experiences. Before I got into, I managed their store in Amsterdam, which was great. I really learned a lot about different cultures. We worked with a team of 55, and I think there were I had like 30 different nationalities, something like that. So that was really fun, and made some really great friends there as well. But then I went into the lead generation space. I always had that urge to start my own company. And I
Mhm.
remember when I was when I was still, joining other jobs, I would listen to all these podcasts of your Gary V's and
Yeah.
other entrepreneurs. And I was always thinking, man, I knew I wanted to work with clients and help people and just really just make my own money and run a business. And at some point, I just got really into cold email and really got into lead generation. And I remember sending one of my very first cold emails, which obviously was a super horrible message, but I pretty much asked like, "Hey, this is what we do. Is that something you're interested in?" And they said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, it can't be that easy. Like you send someone an email, ask if they want to do business with you, and they either say yes or no." So
Mm.
that was just super cool, super interesting. And you know how it is when you then get obsessed with it, and you really get, you go down a rabbit hole and you start just really look to prove yourself. And I really got into every single bit about cold email, when it comes to writing cold emails, to the technical setup. I wanted to know everything. And you work with a bunch of clients, made a lot of mistakes, taking on the wrong types of clients, doing work the wrong way, making every single mistake you can imagine, from burning domains to sending just horrible messages
Yeah.
to not knowing where to get your data to. I mean, that's how you learn, right? So that was a really cool experience. So I had my own lead generation agency, either as a founder, as a co-founder as well, at a different lead generation agency. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was definitely a great and fun experience, where I learned a lot, and made some great connections.
What are your top
Then
lessons for lead gen agency founders? Because you know my experience. One of my core businesses is a lead gen agency, just like you started. What's top advice would you give to us?
Sure. So I would say specialize, as in you want to work with, you want to make sure that you know who you can provide the most value to, and then you really
Yeah.
try and focus on that, because then you also don't have to you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel, right? Where,
Yeah.
for example, I used to work with a lot of marketing agencies. Then
Yeah.
okay, you know what? For marketing agencies, this is more or less the angle I can take. Then there's a
Mhm.
type of messaging that works. There's more or less the setup that I need to use, and you can replicate that, and you can in a way productize your service, and you can make scaling and all that, you can make it a
Correct.
lot easier, instead of, okay, you know what, I have this type of client here, that type of client there, and then you just all over the place. And I see that also with some companies who I'm helping out with, maybe some consulting or just casual advice, is fulfillment is always the number one bottleneck. And that comes from having to start from scratch for every single new client that you bring on. So if you already know, and that works in different way as well. Then you could say, hey, we work with marketing agencies. Then you really learn, their language. You really learn how to approach them as well. So you make converting new clients for yourself a lot easier as well. Not in the least place, because you now also have some really relevant case studies. You can go to a marketing agency B and say, hey, we just helped marketing agency A, who is really similar to you. We helped them with these exact results, and this is how we did it. And that's going to speak a lot more to them than just saying, hey, I know you're a marketing agency. We helped an app development company with this, so that they're a little bit similar to you. So we can probably do the same for you as well.
That's great.
So you make things a lot easier for yourself on every single front. So that
Mhm.
would be probably my main advice. And don't take on clients that, like, you have that feeling, that feeling, right? When you have the first conversation, and they get into price a little bit, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they don't really have their own sales team. They don't really have their own processes worked out. So maybe you
Hmm.
bring them a bunch of leads in the first 2 weeks, and they don't know what to do with them and all that. So yeah, it's really tempting to say, you know what, I hit 20K this month because I took on a bunch of clients, but then you're gonna lose a whole lot of sleep, because they're chasing you, they're annoying, you're not able to handle fulfillment and all that. So just make sure that you take your time to set up to do good for a couple of clients, that you know what works and what doesn't for that type of client, and you find more people like them pretty much. That would be probably my biggest takeaway. If I had to do it again, I
Very
would
good
specialize.
advice. Do you still do agency work?
No, I don't. I do some consulting with other agencies, with agencies who are just starting out or who are looking to scale up. So I help them there. I mean, honestly, I really like it.
Mhm.
So I'm tempted at times. I do still get some people asking me that question, like, "Hey, we worked together in the past. Do you still work? Could you still do this for me? Could you still do that for me?" And I'm tempted at times, but no, I'm 100% all in online right now. And yeah, who knows? Like I've been toying with the idea of doing a bit of a challenge, saying, okay, with Lyne, let's see how fast we can help clients or scale an agency. So
Mhm.
who knows? But right now, no, I don't do any agency type work.
Okay, because like I am a strong believer in the SaaS model too, but do you think that the agency model would take too much of your time, or did you, for example, not succeed in having an agency run on autopilot that could not take your time? Why not do both? And
Hmm.
that's my first question. The second is the SaaS model enough to pay the bills in the end, or did you had, for example, savings? Because I understand that the SaaS model is very lucrative and it's on autopilot. It's a software, it's replicable. No, I won't get in the Andreessen Horowitz thing that software is eating the world and all that, but it's a great model. What do you have to say on the agency via SaaS model here?
Yeah, so initially, when you started with an agency, yeah, definitely it would take a lot. Because to now after a while with the agency, we had most of those processes worked out. So a lot of that would either work on autopilot or you would have the right people in the right place who could help you do fulfillment and all that. So when it comes to cash flow, yeah, agencies and the agency model definitely is great. Then again, it's I I mean, burned out is a huge is a big term, big word. I wasn't burned out, but in our space, and I'm sure that's something that you've noticed as well. You don't very often work with clients for a year, 2 years. Even when you're doing good, like clients, they either things change or it can be tricky to really stick with clients for a longer time.
Yeah.
So churn is fairly high.
Mhm.
So that makes it that there's a lot of onboarding with new clients, and yeah, you can make that a really seamless process, but it's just
Mhm.
it's tiring, not gonna lie.
Oh
So that
yeah.
was something that where I figured, what, the SaaS model that we're operating on currently, Lyne is doing phenomenally well. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
And I tend like when you're an entrepreneur, you see a lot of things that you want to take on, right? You're
Yeah.
seeing this opportunity here. You're thinking, heck, man, I can help this client
Yeah.
and I can run that and I can do that project. And I have a
Mhm.
list of 10 other things that I want to do.
Yep.
And that I've done in the past. But now that I'm focused on one thing, I can see, I'm focusing on this one thing and it's going really well. And all the things
Yeah.
that I've done in the past, they've gone okay. So apparently I should focus on one thing. Like you cannot really argue against that evidence, right? So I'm all
Yeah.
in on that right now. But then again, like in the future, who knows? Like once the line is running and you have your team built out there and things are going great, it could be that there are other things that will get like 20% of my focus, for example.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first burnout is real. Like a tough client. So, like you said, avoid these like they are the plague. Um,
Mm,
then the second thing here, I mean, any type of agencies. I've tried a bunch of agencies. Facebook ads, AdWords, websites.
mm,
Well, websites
mm,
are a bit different because it's one and done most of the time.
yeah.
But yeah, people churn a lot. Because the price is high. I think
Mm,
that's the main reason. And via software can be a bit lower. How I view it, though, how an agency can be a cool part of an ecosystem. My goal in life is to build the greatest startup ecosystem in the world. Is that
mm,
the agency can be the R&D part, and give you data. Although, like, I mean, if inline you have access to all the campaigns and you can get like good data there, but never as good as talking to a human, for example, and listening to him and seeing what software he uses and stuff. I think the agency can be a cool R&D part, and can help the SaaS for sure. But I want to go on with your experience because we only got like 5 minutes left.
Yeah,
Just leads.
I have
Yeah,
more
go ahead.
time, honestly. I have more time, so if I don't know about your schedule, but we can.
Yeah, I have a hard
talk.
stop because I have a sales calls afterward.
Sure.
But I'd like to reinvite you anyway because there's so much to say there. But I saw just leads. That's interesting because it was like 4 months. Can you tell us a bit more about that one?
Yeah, definitely. So Just Leads, they're a Dutch agency, lead generation agency, and they reached out for me to help them with the whole, setting up the processes. So they were starting out, two younger guys, super ambitious, super hardworking, and so I helped them with setting up the processes, onboarding clients, making sure that there was the right technology in place, and setting up new technology, and just providing with a bit of a Kickstarter, I suppose. So that was like a consulting type thing that I did for them. So that's when I was a bit shorter. Might actually go back to helping them. I still have contact with them, and they're just really fun to work with. It's just always really cool to work with super hardworking, bright, ambitious people, and it's been inspiring for me personally. So like it's a good reminder. I need to reach out to them actually.
And what about Growbots? That's an interesting one too.
Yeah, I've had my last week there a couple of weeks ago. Growbots was the head of marketing there for about 8-9 months.
Yeah.
That was definitely interesting. It's a I'm a big fan of the entire space of the sales enablement, sales automation space, however you want to call it. And they had a really great opportunity as the head of marketing, and I've been a fan of Growbots for a while. It was one of the first tools that I used when I started with cold email. When I saw the opportunity, I was just super excited, and they were excited to bring me on. So that was a great experience as well. We learned a lot there, and we did some really cool things in the space in creating content. And I got to meet the team. They have a great team in place, and they have some really cool visions on how they can actually combine software with a bit of an agency model as well. So I think you and their CEO, you really hit it off, because I think your visions are really well aligned. That was great, but while I was working there, Lyne was something that we worked on part-time in the weekends and the evenings, and it really took off. And I don't know, as it took off as hard as it did, as well as it did, it just made a lot more sense to focus on that full time, and that's why I left Growbots a few weeks ago, actually.
Okay. So I sent you the invite, and it's gonna be fun to talk about Lyne. Let's devote a good 30 minutes to it, and let's talk tomorrow, man.
Yeah, I love talking about Lyne.
All right, thanks, Hans.
Yeah, thanks for your time, man. Good luck with